started. Good evening, everyone. I'm super excited that you're here. Welcome to our Ask Me Anything event hosted by Diversify by Design. And before we dive in, I've asked this question already, but one last time, how are you feeling creatively right now within your journey? One word to let us know how you're feeling. Drop it in the chat. We're always excited to hear where you are when you enter this space, and we're excited to hear even more where you are when you are getting ready to exit this space. And I saw some people say stoked. I saw some people say optimistically confused. So whether you're feeling any of those things, you are in the right room. And like I've already mentioned, I am Alicia Brown, community lead at Diversify by Design, and I'm so excited to be hosting tonight's Ask Me Anything conversation with Hammonds. And I just mentioned Diversify by Design, also known as D by D. And some of you may know a ton about D by D, while some of you may know nothing about the coalition and are only here for Owen. And I respect that completely. But while I have you, I'd love to tell you more about the coalition and why we even decided to develop an AMA series in the first place. So, Diversify by Design is a coalition of organizations and individuals that joined forces in 2021 to create a more racially diverse and inclusive design industry. One of our critical goals is to create opportunities for historically excluded young people to learn about design and connect with successful designers. And in that spirit, D by D's AMA series was developed. The D by D AMA series serves as a platform for designers who champion diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging to answer questions about their career trajectory, life experiences, and the things they've dedicated their lives and careers to creating. And with that, we are super excited and delighted and all of the great words to welcome you to tonight's AMA, where we are joined by Oen Michael Hammonds, IBM Distinguished Design Executive, Educator, and Global Creative Leader. So welcome, Owen. Let's give a little round of applause. Practice our reactions. Drop the react emojis with the hand claps. And a lot of you have worked with Owen, know Owen, but for those of you who do not, I want to give a little bit of a background. So Owen is an IBM Distinguished Design Executive, Educator, and Global Creative Leader with over 25 years of experience shaping brands, mentoring creatives, and championing inclusive design worldwide. His work has taken him from shaping Procter & Gamble brands like Olay and Bounce to speaking at global events such as Cairo Design Week, the Hue Design Summit, and the Yale Business by Design Conference. But what makes Owen's story special isn't just his titles or accolades, it's how he blends art with purpose, leads with empathy, and creates opportunities for underrepresented creatives to thrive. Owen, we are so excited to hear more about what you've learned over the last 25 years. Thank you again for being with us. How are you feeling today?
I'm doing really well, and thank you so much for having me today. This is awesome. I love these AMAs. They're
Me
they're
too.
hard, but like they're I like them. You're gonna get the whole unpolished
That's
answers
what we
here.
want. That's what we want because that's when we learn the most. I literally, when I'm having these conversations, I have like my pen and paper because I'm like, I'm taking something with me. There's always like this light bulb moment that I have. And also, when you have these conversations, do you find yourself as you're speaking being like, I didn't realize that that was my perspective, but the more that I talk about it, the more I'm like, oh, that is how I feel, or like, what do you gain from these conversations?
I think the big thing is that we as people oftentimes think that we're the only ones having that challenge. But when we speak out loud or find others to talk to or to like reverb off of or like just to have that conversation, it's like, oh, like I'm not the only one who's ever experienced this. Oh, I'm not the only one having that current challenge right now. I think even better when it comes from people that we normally wouldn't talk to or have that conversation with because then you get that diversity in that different points of view, then you don't end up in an echo chamber, which is I think one of the biggest challenges right now that we're experiencing in the world is that like we're kind of like isolating ourselves into like our own what we consider our safe spaces, and we're not really getting different points of view to like really get a bigger, broader understanding of what's happening, why it's happening. what can I do to like change it or challenge it or like or to be an activist or an
Mhm.
activator then as well too. So that's why I really like these types of AMAs because they like they're unpolished.
Yeah.
They give us the opportunity to like hear different points of view. It's just not just about me. It's like this is an opportunity like to hear from everyone here about like your experiences or and such as well too because um, I'm a continuous learner, and so I hope to like walk away learning something more than I didn't know coming into this.
Absolutely. And Owen just nailed it when he said this isn't just a conversation between he and I. So come off of mute if you feel led to ask a question. If Owen says something that has like sparks an aha moment or a light bulb moment on your end, we want to hear from you as well. It's super important that you participate in that way. So come off of mute. Do not be shy. You'll learn that I don't mind an awkward pause. So I will say, are there any questions? And we will sit because I know there's a question and I'm going to give you space to ask it also in the chat. Feel free to chime in there. And so I will just go ahead and jump in, Owen. Your philosophy is
Mhm.
design is art on purpose with purpose. Can you share a moment in your career when that mindset made all the difference in the outcome of a project? And before we even get into that, where does that
Mhm.
philosophy come from?
It's an interesting one because that philosophy comes from an ongoing discussion that actually it started as an argument between me and a couple college friends when we were discussing the difference between art and design. And and I've always thought of, like in that discussion, that argument, that ongoing discussion is the thing that like really helped me truly understand and actually even have conversations today with clients, executives of like how to like engage designers in the
Mhm.
work then. And like art is like conveying a message, conveying a thought, and design is all about just really solving problems. And it's not just through the medium of like visual graphics and things like that, but like the art of problem solving is like really understanding like what's the problem that we're even trying to solve then as well too. And unfortunately, many schools don't teach that direction of design. It's more about like, hey, learn Illustrator, learn Photoshop, learn this tool, learn that tool. And I approach it as more of really what is the challenge that we're trying to solve here? Who are we trying to solve it for? What's the outcome that we're trying to drive if we solve this correctly then as well too. And so where business leaders are looking at it from a numbers perspective, I'm looking at it from like a people perspective, like who is this for? Who's using it? And so to your second question around, like like uh, uh, something that happened. This happens every day in my job, unfortunately, where I have to run what I would call intercept with um, internal clients, external clients that really only engage designers to make their things look pretty or make their things look, like awesome. And it's like, well, like there's a whole lot more that we can do here. And I see, and for me to understand what to do to solve this, I have questions for you. And you oftentimes my questions are those ones that I just rattled off. Like what's the problem that you're trying to solve? Who are you trying to solve it for? What's the outcome that you're trying to drive to, like to be successful then as well too. And so that those questions, I would say like 1 out of 3 is answerable by the client or like the stakeholder or some of them engaging. But like that drives a healthier constructive conversation that I'm having with them. So I'm not just an order taker, but I'm trying to like really help you solve what you're trying to achieve, help you try to get you to where you're trying to achieve to then as well too. A great example last week was really even just like a day to day. It's like, hey, like I really need you to go into this presentation like help us understand like why clients are not getting it. And so like all right, cool, like in a way it was like like make it pretty because that was their expectation though for me to like go in and do. And it's like, all right, let
Yeah.
me read through your deck and like let me come back with you with a couple of questions and possibly some suggestions in as well too. And so like as I went through the deck, I didn't really understand like what's the story that they were trying to tell, who they were trying to like tell that story to, and what was the action that they wanted whoever they're presenting to take once they've gone through that presentation as well. And so once I went back to them and asked them those types of questions, it was like there's no amount of like making this pretty that's gonna like make this story any better. So like let's walk through this. Let me ask you a certain amount of questions to help me provide some suggestions of like how we can move the needle on your presentation so you can get better engagement from the clients that you're presenting to then. And as we step through it, I can see the light bulbs going off with the individual because they were like really just thinking about like I just need to like give them all this information and then like magical things are going to happen. It doesn't work that way. It's like you really like so like if you're like in this scenario, they were trying to like upsell like technical software and equipment um, to a client, but the way that they were presenting to this client, it was extremely deep, gorpy, black hole technical information. And so you're like, so if you're presenting to like the decision maker who is a CFO or like a chief technology officer of a company, they're more than likely are not going to understand this deep content is really good for like someone that actually works on that, but like you're talking to a financial person. They're not going to understand that. You need to like up level the language that you're speaking to them and like really come off and come to them with like this is why you should believe in us. This is what it will do for you. This is how much money it will save for you then. And like start there. It's like get them to lean in and then, and then like be clear about like what's the action that we can take to like help you further understand and like make the best decision to buy our products and services then as well too. So really engaging the stakeholders in this case in executives just really what I was in the back of my head that I was trying to do was like really change their perspective of like how to engage designers in their
Yeah.
day-to-day work. Then.
Yeah, so many good things just came out of what you said. I'm going to start from the top of my notes and make my way down. Just three quick points, because there were so many good things that were mentioned there. And I know that we have a lot of working professionals on the call, but we also have a lot of students in the call. And you just spoke to both very well. At the top, when you were talking about where your design philosophy came from, you mentioned that it came from an argument with friends. And I think it's so important right now for students to kind of like lean into that point of friction. I think
Hmm.
sometimes it's very easy to kind of just be a yes man, whether that be in conversation with friends, internships that they may be at in the school, like in the classroom. But a design principle, a design philosophy that we're talking about, however many years later, came from a point of friction. It came from conversation, um, from you not just kind of giving in conversation. So I think that's important to note to the students that are on the call that like lean into the friction of those conversations because it might turn into your new design philosophy. So I
Absolutely, particularly while you're even in school as well too. Like yes, your teachers are providing you assignments, but you should ask questions. If you don't understand something, ask for clarity. Because like that's where you're going to really start to gain more knowledge or understand like more possibilities of solving the problem that may be outside of like, hey, you told us to design a brochure for this XYZ project in our syllabus, but like I actually know a little bit about this topic, and like that's not the thing that's going to like solve the problem. The actual solution may be this. And if one of my students came to me and said that, I'd be like, go. like run with it, like go with it, because like you've just kind of like did the thing that we all as designers need to do. Like you just broke the system. You just you went up against the system, and like you actually had a idea that's like not the stereotypical thing that like everyone does then as well.
Absolutely. And then even as you continue to talk, it's kind of seems like there's just this like transactional experience that is happening in like the workspace and in the workspace within design to where it's like, I need this, I'm going to give you this and I need this back. And it's all very transactional. And it sounds like a part of coming out of that transactional spirit is asking really good questions and asking better questions. And I'm wondering, how do designers ask better questions?
Um, that's a good question in itself. Like it's a really hard one because it's it's better to ask than to fake it. Let me start with that. Because so many people, like not even just the designers, but like even like the people who are like our clients, are oftentimes just pushing things toward us because like that's the thing that they're comfortable with and want to push forward with. But as designers, the way that I usually come up with questions that I admit that like I don't know much about this space.
Mm,
Tell me a little bit more about this healthcare client. Tell me a little bit more about like who we're doing this for. You know, like what's the thing that's broken? You know, like why is it not working now? Or if this is new, you know, like what makes this different than everyone else's app that does the exact same thing then? So like, cause those are the things that help me understand what I'm going to design. It also helps me understand like what do I need to like amplify as I'm designing the piece so that I'm making sure that we're not just copying the same thing that
yep,
your competitors are doing then as well too. So you just have to like be open to like acknowledging like these are the things I know, these are the things I don't know. And really be able to like, like have that admittance to who you're working with so that you all can like do a share an exchange of information then. But then most importantly, go out and do research. It's like, hey, I don't know much about this domain. I'm going to go and do some research and like figure it out, like and take back what I learned and maybe present it back to you to make sure I'm on track then. Like, and that's a step that like oftentimes is really skipped because we
yeah,
get caught up in like the speed of business. It's like there's really no hot deadline. I mean, come on. It's like it's like what's the deadline? Why is it on fire? Like why is it due like yesterday? And he's like, oh well, we missed the deadline. Well, like that's not my fault.
yeah. Then there's that.
Don't put that on me.
Right. Right. I love that. And also, I just want to say, Quentin, shout out to you in the chat for keeping the conversation going there. And definitely encourage everyone as we're having these conversations to continue the conversation going within the chat. I do want to pause and ask, we just had a lot of really good conversation already on when we're like one question in. Are there any like comments or questions based on what we just discussed? So Owen's philosophy, design is art on purpose with purpose. Any questions or comments before I keep things going? Alrighty, no worries. Well, there's more time throughout, so get those questions ready for Owen. I'm gonna go ahead and go to the next one, Owen, and this is gonna be more conversations around empathy, and I love talking about empathy
Mhm.
in design and in the workspace. And so you've led teams across industries and cultures. What does leading with empathy look like in practice, and how has it shaped the way you manage creative work?
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things that I always lean on is understanding each individual on my team not just their role and responsibilities, but also what motivates them, what engages them, where are their passions at. So I can like really, that just really helps me know how to like work with that individual, not just work with the team, but like also work with the individuals on my team so I can get the best out of them. Also provide them opportunities that I may not even know about. Like design is a very broad spectrum of specialties, and so a person may be a UX designer on my team, but they actually even enjoy doing strategy work. Like really deep, gorpy kind of like trying to like understand like how to like make this ideal come to life on a bigger scope. It's like, hey, like come sit in a meeting with me with my executive peers and like listen to us talk about how we're approaching the strategy and stuff as well too then. Speaking of strategy, being clear about the strategy and what their role is in contributing to that work. Oftentimes, like kind of like my example before, we're just given like, go make this, go do that, like you're responsible for this, but the key of like, why are we doing this? What are we doing it for? How do I fit into solving this? Is often left behind or not conveyed out to the team or the individuals on the team as well too. And so when you start to see disengagement or people not turning things in on time or other kind of like what people call consider low productivity, is like, well, actually kind of like take a step back yourself. Did you provide clear understanding of like what we're working on? What are we doing it for? What each individual person's role in delivering that work then as well too. You may assume that they know that, but oftentimes it's better to like say it than to assume that they know it then as well
Yeah.
too. Being available and approachable. I think one of the people tend to overly focused on people's titles or like or even individuals sometimes think it's like, well, they're a busy person, so I can't, like reach out to them. And whenever like when I'm managing a team, I make it super clear of like one, like we're gonna have a great a steady cadence meeting. And it's not just about like me telling you what you can do better or like you're doing great at this, but I just want us to have like a regularly cadence conversation for you to be able to like, let's talk here then. And you determine when you want to meet. It can be every 2 weeks, it can be once a month, it can be once a quarter. I don't care. But like I just need to like have some level of like conversation with you on a regular cadence so that I'm aware that like you're okay, you understand everything that you're doing, and that like that like I can help you clear roadblocks in a timely manner then as well too then as well. Um, and like I think that's a thing that like managers it's like for many I haven't worked at a ton of companies, but like in the manager trainings I've done at the companies I worked at, that is something that is not even talked about. Like it's it's always amplified and driven toward like performance, performance, performance. And it's like, well, there's for me to like help a person perform, like I need to really get to know them. And so like even better if you train me how to like get to know my team without appearing kind of like, like just like invasive or
Yeah.
or like kind of like just kind of like a canned approach to, like doing that work then as well too. Like how can I do that authentically then as well?
Yeah. Oh, and hearing you speak, I don't know why I thought when we were entering into that question about empathy, I thought it would be a lot of this is how you treat this person, this is how you treat this person. So much of what you said was self-reflective. And I love that your empathy towards other people, so much of it is not rooted in like the outwardness of the day to day, but it's rooted in like the self reflective work that you do once you're off the clock, once you're at home, once you're like, I don't know. I think people talk about how do I manage and how do I lead with empathy. And so much of that conversation is you treat them this way, you tell them this, it's very outward. And so much of what you said was self-reflective.
I think a lot of that honestly comes from having amazing managers and crappy managers. And so like, and you only learn by like reflecting on like, all right, I just had this conversation with my manager and it was horrible. Like what went wrong? Why did it go wrong? What could I have done better? What could they have done better than? And I always take that, I try as best to take that in and emulate the best of, like the best leaders that I've had in my life. And not everyone's been a manager. Like I've had great advocates, leaders, and even like mentors, like Doug Powell, who's on the call tomorrow, is like has been people who have like really helped me understand how to be a better person.
Yeah, I love that. You've been a longtime advocate for inclusive design. What's one change you believe every designer can make today to create work that better serves underrepresented audiences?
So back to my earlier comment about research. One, I think that whenever we're doing research, we need to make sure that the participants have come from a diverse background. It's like because the tendency is like we will research the people that we're comfortable with, or like we'll unconsciously research with people or like do focus groups or do surveys or do things like that with people that maybe look like us, either consciously or unconsciously, or like we have a close connection with, which may mean like you may have like a small group of like, or like your group of people may come from the same background as you as well too. And like I work in technology in the infrastructure mainframe space. And yes, like I've gone to conferences and the majority of people there all look like, a definite certain demographic that you would associate with mainframers then. But, like just doing that extra legwork or even just asking, it's like, like if I have close connections in the space now, where it's like, hey, like, and I feel comfortable asking them, it's like, hey, like I've interviewed a lot of people that come from either the same school, they all are white, or like they all have like 45 years of experience. Can you introduce me to anyone that doesn't fit that demographic? And they're like, oh, yeah, like I have this mentee of mine that's this. Like I work with this guy who works at this bank. Like he's, like a black VP of like, like da 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 da. It's like, thank you. And like that's all it took. Like just that little bit of like being comfortable with the uncomfortable and like asking a question and like there's like oh yeah sure like I can help you definitely with that then as well too. So like that I think I'm a big my research friends will like love me for this. This is like but like I'm a visual designer, but I'm a huge advocate of research because like I'm just naturally curious and like and that just kind of like lends into doing research sometimes on my own or like working very, very closely with a user researchers on my team to just really get better understanding of the space or like who we're doing design work for then. And so, like whenever I see, like the pool of people that we're pulling to do research with, I always like if someone new, like I'm always asking them like, hey, can we have a demographic column? Like I want to know like their age. I want to know like how long they've been in the business. I want to know what school they went to. I want, like because those things can like really tell the difference between like so this group of people are going to probably get the same set of kind of answers, but like this group of people, we're probably going to get some variety of like different information that we normally would not have gotten then as well too.
Yeah, I am applying that immediately. I don't know about anybody else on the call, but I am going ask someone to introduce me to someone in my space. And I'm just going to be very specific about it not reflecting the people that I talk to all the time, because to your point, you do it subconsciously. And I love when those light bulb moments and those aha moments are like just that simple. Like ask to be introduced to people who are not already in your network or don't already look like
Mm,
people you talk to every day. It's really that simple sometimes. Tara
yeah.
asked in the chat, and Tara, if you want to come off of mute, feel free to and ask Owen. But if you prefer that I ask Owen, I can do that as well. So I'll give you a couple of seconds to come off of mute if you'd like to.
After you put me on the spot, Alicia, I have to come off of mute.
Oh no, no worries. I didn't want the pause to be too long, but I wanted to give you the space if you wanted to come off of mute to ask.
No, this is like my second event. It's fine. Owen, thank you for sharing your story. I just want to know, like, how did you develop the habit of self-reflection, especially like when you're doing projects? Because sometimes it's just like needs to get done now, now, now.
Yeah, it's so actually I don't have it here. So there's a activity that we do at IBM called Design Principal Program and Distinguished Designer Program. And then both of those their appointments given by either the design principal is given by the technical leadership at the company, and the distinguished designer, which is what am now, is given by the CEO of the company then. But in both of those assignments, you have to put together a case. And I'm not talking about like a traditional kind of like portfolio case study. I'm talking about I think I walked away with scars and wounds from putting together this intense packet of talking about myself, talking about the work that I've done, talking about like how I've supported the business, talking about how I've supported the community internally and externally outside of IBM as well too. And so putting together that packet, I fortunately had some great mentors that really helped me kind of like construct my story together and like really help me, like call out like, all right, cool, like you did that. So what? And it was like, it's like you're just having like these frantic moments where it's like, all right, like we got you, but like we just want you to dig deeper and like really think about like what did that work really do for either the company or your team or like for your peers as well too. And so once like I went through that activity twice. The first time going becoming a design principal was like that was extremely brutal because it's the first time I've ever done that depth of self-reflection. Like you do self-reflection every now and then, like when they have to do performance reviews or like when you have to do it. But like that level of self-reflection just really made me understand. It's also kind of like why I do a program. I do a internal and an external kind of like workshop called portfolio of experience development that really I'm taking what I learned and like really kind of like helping people think deeper about their contribution to the work through their design work then as well too. So like helps them build much more robust case studies, help them build more development about like an understanding of like who they are. But like it was really Tara, like that activity in itself just really made me like double down on like everyone needs to do this more often. This is like not just like your end of year review, but like really kind of like put your story together. Because one of the things I tell my students is that like if you're not putting your story together, someone else is telling your story, and you need to be in control of your story.
I love
I'm not gonna say that's great. No, thank you. That's given me a lot to think about. I'm not sure if I'm ready for the scars though.
that. Tara's like, the answers, no scars on the side. Thank you. I appreciate that. I love that, Owen. Thank you for sharing that. And now that you looked around for the was it a booklet or packet? I'm like, I'm dying to see it now.
Yeah, it's a book that I like. Usually people will submit a PDF packet like multiple hundreds of pages long, but I took that because I'm a visual and a print designer, old school. Like I was like, I'm making a book. Like I'm going to make this like I'm going through all of this. Like I'm going to go to the next level. And like I got one of those like online digital printing places to make a actual physical book out of it then as well.
I love that. I love that. Well, just like what Tara did, y'all, this is a conversation not between just myself and Owen, but between all of us. He has mentioned some great things so far around empathy and what it looks like in practice on teams and across culture, inclusive design and designers just doing little things that can make all the difference in better serving marginalized people. I'm pausing again to ask, are there any questions or comments that you have about the conversation so far? Alrighty. Well, we're going to keep it moving. And this is an AMA, so I will be pausing again to ask some questions from the audience. So get those questions ready. One more question for you, Owen, about the work that you've done around the world. So your work has taken you from Cairo Design Week to the Yale Business by Design Conference. How have these global experiences influenced your approach to creativity and problem solving?
Uh, I'm privileged to have the opportunity to do all that travel either for work or personally. And I think one big thing about traveling is seeing and hearing how others have solved similar problems that I have in my day-to-day work then. I think, like we are things that we tend to be very bland, I think, in the West with our design solutions and things like that. And like I can give you an amazing example that is happening literally right now that like because AI is trained off of the intranet, well, there are like literally like design leaders coming out of the woodworks talking about like this work is extremely bland. It's like very just kind of like generic, has no personality, it has no soul. And it's because like you trained it off the internet. Like what do you expect? It's like, but like our, like our business leaders don't mind that because like they're seeing their measurements are based off of other things, but like as designers we see the consequences of that then as well too. And so I think we need I really enjoyed the opportunity to travel because I've gotten to see like cool ways of doing brochure design that is different than what how we would do it in the States. I've seen ways of like how people interpret you know, like an animal like a tiger is interpreted and like and illustrated in so many different ways around the world. And it's like and just seeing that unique value, like that unique differences of like how it's done in South America or how it's done in Central America versus how it's done in Japan or Singapore. And it's like that excites me because like it tells me that there are like so many things that we're missing as opportunities in our work and like how people solve problems then that we let the sometimes like we let the business get in the way. And it also kind of like really like helps me understand like why so many designers like leave the like the formal business and start their own thing because like they get so like vanilla in their own work and they feel disenchanted that is like the only way I'm going to be able to do this is go out and do my own thing. Now, I would say that like there's a lot of things that I learned in my day-to-day work that helped me stay engaged with doing work. It also helped me get to where I'm at today, where I never dreamt of being here, like in this place, in the place that I'm at now. But that like I feel that is my responsibility, particularly at the position I'm in now, to use my knowledge of global travel, global insights to push against the system and to like challenge in a constructive and like meaningful way to like not do what is expected like what everyone is expecting us to do when we put out new things into the world then as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. And right now I'm bouncing between, like I said, we have our career seasoned professionals that are on the call, but we also have our students who are on the call. So I know there are lots of students that are like, I cannot wait to be at Cairo Design Week. They're like, book my flight today. But before they get to that point, it's, they have to get the job, etc. And so we had a question that was submitted by a student, Herman Green, and Herman's not on the call, but I had this logged because I knew it would be helpful to other students here. So
Hmm.
before they get their ticket to Cairo, what is the best thing for an early career designer to do to get employed full time as a designer?
Woo.
I know it's in 2025.
Yeah. I mean, that's the $1 million question,
It
quite
is.
literally. I'm actually writing something right now about that. And like essentially, I think that like whatever you're graduating with design, do not think that that's the only thing you need to like get the job then. Because school can only teach you so much. And I hear comments of like, well, they didn't teach me that in school. Like, there's only so many hours in the school, like I'm in Texas and there's actually a mandate of like how many credit hours a student can take. So it's like we're being clipped by, like our legislator to like only teach so many hours because like they want people to graduate then. So it's like, so the only thing that I can do is like in my class, like this is the assignment, this is the learning from it. Here's all the other things that I do not have time to talk about. It's that you should go read, study, look at, a person you should introduce yourself to locally who can like talk about this even better than I can then as well too. So really, like getting work today, I think because of, well, it's not just because of AI, like, but like in a solution or a opportunity around AI, it's going to be a whole lot less about like making the traditional objects and ephemera that we do as graphic designers, and it's going to be more about like critically thinking and strategically thinking about like who am I designing this for? Is that artifact that the AI put out the right solution? What are the things that like I can do by hand to change it? Or how do I do better prompt engineering to get it to like really get it closer to what I need it to be then as well too? And that requires great verbal communication, great writing, conversational design, which is just about like how do you write so that like it presents more clarity to the system to like take an action then as well too. And so what you're learning in school is the amazing and awesome foundational things that you need to like do great design. Now take that and apply it to like making the system, making the tools work for you. Because oftentimes, and particularly what's happening now, people are leaning on the tool to do the job. And it's like really like it should be us doing the job then as well too, which requires us to like move away from like the traditional habits that we have normally have done then as well too. Mhm.
Absolutely. And I have another question that was submitted, and I love the questions that were submitted when people registered, because it feels like we're kind of like in one of those like New York Times articles where they're like, ask Owen. So we're going to go further into our Ask Owen segment. And someone mentioned, I am a self-taught designer with a science
Mhm.
background and industry experience. Should I pursue a master's in design? So curious to hear a little
Mm.
bit more about your thoughts around a master's in design. And a lot of people, they may major in something, one thing, but they're like, I'm interested in design. Is the master's the way to go? So yeah, I would love to hear more.
Yeah, my initial thought is like, what are you hoping to do with the master's in design? And or are there other ways to achieve what you're wanting to do that may be a quicker path or a cheaper path? Or, because master school ain't cheap. And also too, it's depending on what school you go to. So like, let me preface that. Depending on what school you go to, you may actually end up learning more theory than actually learning practicality. And that's that's another thing that's like really different between art and design. Like design is about hitting like putting your foot down on the road and like running. It's like it is about like making things work for the world. Art is ethereal. Like it's like, ooh, like I can make all these cool things, but like at the end of the day, someone's got to use it. Someone's got to interact with it. And so that practical design work, it's why I really love the I went to Northern Kentucky University, a small state school, and but the majority of my faculty were adjuncts. And what they brought to the classroom was the real world experience of like designing. And that's what you have to like take into consideration if you choose to go to a school. Look up those teachers in that program. Are they someone that actually practiced design, or have they always just been like someone teaching design? Then, and you'll find that like there's a night and day experience between those master school programs, between like the people who are like just creating amazing theoretical, experimental design work, and those who are creating um, practical work, but it is also pushing the system of like thinking to get to ideas and solutions then as well too. So like I would suggest to that individual to like really evaluate the programs that you're like considering to get your master's degree in, because there's a different like there's a different flavor of master's school, and you have to like determine like what are you looking to get out of that, and which one of these schools or programs can like really help me get to that, yeah, that point of success then as well too.
Absolutely. Again, another moment where it's just like sometimes the answer is really just right in front of you. As simple as saying, like, going Google and research the potential professors and what am I really taking
Mhm.
away from these courses and, the experiences that they've had. We have one question that was asked in the chat from Quentin, who is on the call. Quentin says, I often hear about the challenge in getting over the hurdles of making the right introductions, but I have found that the real problematic tendency has to do with follow-ups. How does one encourage
Mm.
mutually beneficial, pragmatic activities after the intro? And I love that question because so many conversations are like, yeah, this is so great. Oh, okay, let's talk about it. And I'll follow up with you. And then I'm like, I have not seen that person since last year this time. Um, so how does one encourage mutually beneficial, pragmatic activities after the intro?
First, Quentin, thank you for your activeness in the chat. Like I've been kind of
Yes.
like like reading them through the corner of my eyes. It's like wow, like I need to go back and read these because I haven't been able to see them all. But to your question, I whenever I'm having like a mentor mentee or like a coaching meetup, I always end with some type of activity. Or like actually even during the conversation, things may come up. You just like, like I have a coach, I have an executive coach that I meet with, and she always gives me like during the conversation, she's like ask me a question about, like what do I want to do in my next step of my career? And it's like, well, like I never really thought about it. And it's like, all right, cool. Like I want you to write down the things that make you happy and the things that you don't want to do, and let's use that as a kickoff point in our next conversation. So like, all right, cool. Like that's an activity that was just given to me right then and there. Then and so like now my my meetings are not stagnant. It's like, hey, like it's our time to meet up. Like what's going on? It's like you just end up with crickets then as well too. And it's kind of like a formal way of like coaching or mentorship, but it also like makes the time much more worthwhile for both individuals. Because mentorship or even coaching, it's about building relationships. You know, like I don't just go to, you know, like I have you know, sometimes I have people come up to me. It's like, hey, like, I want you to be my mentor. All right, let's do a 30-minute conversation just to get to know each other first. And then let's see if we're the right, if I can like help you based off of what I know, or I may make recommendations of other people that I know that like, cause to like suggest as being like your coach or mentor then as well too. And so I would say like it's 50-50. 50% of the time, like I may like, all right, cool, like there's a match here. It's like I can like help you out here. Like, oh, like not really a clear match, you know, like, but like here's some suggestions of some people that I think you should connect with and like ask them the exact same question you asked me there as well too. Um, but you know, like to back to your question, Quentin, is like it's the a good mentor or coach is finding those opportunities to push the individual then. Because if I'm just a sounding board and I'm like like a nodding head, it's like, yeah, 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 yeah. All right, cool. Like, see you next time. I'm not helping you with that. But if I'm actively listening and finding opportune moments to encourage you to like, you should try that. You know, like next time when we meet, between now and the next time we meet, you should, you know, like find three people that you probably have never talked to, introduce yourself, and like bring back something that you learned about them to the next meeting. Then, you know, like I've like helped you kind of like help break, you know, like maybe you know, like you like how to like network better then as well too. So, you know, like mentoring coaching is about like finding those nuggets in the conversation that you're mentoring or coaching and you know, like giving them that activity to just help them get better at it then. Because I can give you activities and they may not be the right ones. But if I'm not actively listening and I'm hearing those opportunities to like, you know, like build a better network, try something that you wouldn't have tried before, answer a question that that you asked yourself to like dig deeper into, then we're going to build a much more meaningful conversations every time that we meet at then as well too.
Absolutely. Oh, and I am normally perfect about time. This conversation has been so good that I have let all of the time in the world escape. And I'm going to ask you one last question before we wrap up today, because I just think it's going to be so good for everyone who is here today. So before you became Owen, that is traveling to Cairo, you were younger Owen designing and a part of different design programs. And obviously, the AMA is our community program that D by D does in order to allow people to be in conversation and in community. But I know that design growing up with you, you participated in lots of programs. And
Mhm.
tomorrow, D by D will be having a program with Doug Powell. You mentioned Doug Powell as a powerful mentor of yours. A special edition of This is a Prototype, the Design Leadership Podcast, benefiting Design Equals, a D by D program that you'll be speaking at tomorrow. And I know that a lot of the work that you do speaking at programs like that stems from programs that you were a part of growing up. So, as the last question, I'd love to hear a little bit more about how those programs impacted you growing up and how it kind of speaks to the work that you support today.
Yeah, you know, my mom was a single parent that raised three of us. I'm the youngest of the three, and she just had to keep me out of trouble. So but she knew that I was into, you know, like creative things, and so she would put me into like, those summer programs to just really, like keep me busy. But, they really help me understand um, the best creative outlet that I can use for as a young kid, growing up in the projects then as well too. And so I participated in most of them. They weren't really, I would say, like what we would define as really design today, but they were more programs that like really helped me build my creative outlet. And like one of the ones that I think about the most is it was an illustration type, and it was a storytelling program, what we would call like illustration typography, where the teacher just really helped us kind of like convey our feelings and like convey our emotions through typography and illustration then. And it was like, and as I wish I had those drawings still today, but like could like but I can remember them as like that was design. Those were designed pieces, what I would call like mostly like poster design kind of like types of like pieces that just really kind of like that really help me find that design as a where I'm at today as a career path then as well too.
Yes, absolutely. And so we just dropped more information below, but I'll tell you all a little bit more about the information that Andrea just shared and why it was important for me to allow you all to hear that story from Owen. So tomorrow, Diversify by Design at 1 p.m. We'll be in conversation with Doug Powell and Kevin Bethune. Quentin just was like, yeah, big names. We're excited. We're very excited to have those big names join us, and a remarkable roster of a lot of other special guests, Owen included, talk building diverse design teams in support of Diversify by Design and Design Equals. And so a little bit more information about Design Equals, like the programs that Owen just mentioned that he participated in. Design Equals is a program that provides free design, free. It's important that I say that. Design curriculum kits, training, mentorship, and career guidance to middle and high school classrooms in marginalized communities. And Design Equals is currently very urgently in need of support in order to continue doing this work in the upcoming academic year so that we can be talking to future Owen Michael Hammonds, future insert name. Tomorrow, Tyson Betts will be in conversation with us. Ellen McGirt, Omari Souza, Sean Williams, Debbie Millman. All of these people have very similar origin stories to the one that Owen just told, and we cannot create the world for the kids that are going to be these people one day if we don't get this work done, if we don't get this work funded. And so we encourage you to register. Andrea just dropped the link. The conversation is going to be so good. Visit our LinkedIn, Diversify by Design. You can see everyone is so excited. We're talking about it there. Follow us on Instagram, DXD Coalition, just so you can get as amped up as we are about the conversation that we'll be having tomorrow. It's so important that those middle schoolers and high schoolers get the resources that they need so that 25 years from now, they're having these same conversations. And Owen, you're joining us tonight. You're joining us tomorrow. So thank you for doing the work. We're doing a series right now on social called Impactful Voices, Meaningful Action. And your voice is not only impactful, but the work that you're doing is meaningful. The action means so much. So thank you for showing up, Owen. And how can I hate to be ending so abruptly, Owen? I could talk to you for an
No.
hour, but how can we keep in contact with you, Owen? If we want to follow you on LinkedIn, are you there? How do we keep in touch with you?
Yes, follow me on LinkedIn, connect with me on LinkedIn. That's the best place to get a hold of me. If you have any questions you want to like ask in like in a more a little bit more private way, please do. I'm always happy to like connect with people. That's where I share a lot of like my current stories, my current thoughts. Like I was talking about, like I'm going to be publishing like the state of you know, the it's rough out there kind of like story that I'm like kind of like currently writing right now. I'll be publishing that there as well as like on the AIGA community site if anyone are members of AIGA then as well too. But yeah, like I'm always I'm an open book and always open, happy to connect.
Thank you
Absolutely. And
so much, Owen. Sorry, I'm losing my voice, but thank you so much. I so appreciate listening to you tonight. And Alasia, thank you so much. It's really been a great conversation, and topping it off with this event tomorrow. It's a completely free event, gang, and with a suggested donation. So join us whether you can donate or not. We want the community there.
Absolutely. And if you enjoyed this Ask Me Anything, like I said, follow D by D Diversify by Design on Instagram and LinkedIn. We have some very cool speakers, very similar to Owen and his coolness, that will be joining us throughout the rest of the year. So thank you all for being with us tonight. We appreciate your time. Apologies for going over. The conversation was too good to stop right at the hour mark. So thank you all. We hope to see you at the next Ask Me Anything. Owen, thank you again.